Well, thanks a lot for inviting me to speak at this excellent meeting in Chile. And I'm going to talk about my work, my current work. I have no theorems to show you. Okay, this is just essentially I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to do. And so far, I haven't got any big theorems to show. Okay, so it's the beginning, and it's been the beginning like for 2 months or more, because I'm trying to work on two different things. The abstract part that I'm going to talk about here a little bit, and also the applications, which is, one thing supports the other. So I have to work on two papers at the same time. And so when I'm trying to do the applications and something doesn't work, then I know that I have to go in a different way in the abstract part, and conversely. So anyways, what is this about? So I'm going to talk about one motives, a new category of one motives. That's a very pompous title of this talk, a very, very short talk, half an hour. So K is any field, and I do care about any field. So the important part here is the case of imperfect fields, okay? All right, so here I have any field, and I have here a flat side. If you do not know much about sheaves, it doesn't really matter, because most of my talk will be essentially elementary homological algebra until that time when I talk about the applications. So this is the category of sheaves on the big flat sides. Here I consider all schemes with the FPPF topology. Okay, and here I have a category which is better known. This is the category of commutative, connected, algebraic, i.e. finite type, K groups. And I can view this as a subcategory of the category of sheaves in here, because every scheme represents a sheaf here, and so everything is fine. So I have it in here. Then I have a different category, the category of formal K groups, which are not really schemes. They are, grosso modo, direct limits of finite group schemes. Okay, so I have to consider these two. Fortunately, both are subcategories of this big one. Okay, this is at the beginning of the talk. This is my universe, but it will turn out to be too small eventually. Okay, but so far we have this big bag containing these two categories. And so if L is a linear group, so this is the category of commutative connected algebraic groups. So here we have the abelian varieties, and we also have the linear groups. So if L is a linear group, then I'm going to define L, the dual of L is simply the sheaf of characters, which I view as a sheaf. And this is called the Cartier dual of L. And I also have, remember that for abelian varieties, there is also a notion of the dual of an abelian variety. So I have I have the concept of the dual of an abelian variety and also the dual of a linear group. This is when the linear group is a finite group scheme, then the Cartier dual is very well known, familiar. Lots of people know about the Cartier duality in the category of finite group schemes. And also people are familiar when L is a torus, an algebraic torus. The dual is essentially just the sheaf of characters of the torus, which can be viewed as a lattice, a free Galois module. There's the absolute Galois group is acting on a module. So those two extreme cases are well known. Okay, but unfortunately, we will see soon that not every group is an abelian variety or linear. They're a mix of both. Anyways, but what's my problem? What do I want to do? And later in the talk, I'll explain why this is important. Well, anyways, the duality theory is important, for instance, because if you look at the statement of the conjecture of Birch and Swinnerton-Dyer, which is one of the millennium problems, one of the big problems of this century, in mathematics, or at least this part of mathematics, you'll see that in the statement of the Birch-Spencer-Dyer conjecture, you have the abelian variety, but there's also information coming from the dual abelian variety. So duality is important, okay, for that reason, and for many other reasons. Okay, so what is my problem? My problem is I want to construct a category big enough so that it contains the category of all algebraic groups, commutative algebraic groups, connected, okay, connected. And I want this category to be big enough so that it contains the dual of any group. For any group, it can be an abelian variety or a linear group, therefore, that I can define a dual inside this big category. This is going to be called the category of one motives in a second. So in order to help you to take the edge off the abstraction, I'll try to make a picture, okay? So if it doesn't look very good, I'm sorry, yeah, because I'm not very good at drawing. But anyways, so all these big categories. So here we have my universe so far. Okay, the category. Whoa, wait a minute. Is there something wrong here? Yeah, okay, here. So the category of sheaves contains the subcategory of abelian varieties. So here we have abelian varieties, and for any abelian variety, I have the concept of a dual abelian variety. Okay, so here I have the linear groups. So what do I call this? Linear? Yeah, linear. And inside this category of linear groups, we have the finite group schemes. And this finite group schemes, this subcategory of finite, it's part also of the category of formal groups. So there's some intersection between these two, okay? Anyways, and so this is closed under duality, and this is not closed under duality, unfortunately, because if I take an arbitrary linear group, well, if I take a finite linear group, a finite group scheme, then the dual of this guy is going to be in here too. It's also going to be finite, okay? But if I take an arbitrary linear group, then actually we'll have to leave this category of algebraic groups. These two are within the CK, the category of commutative groups, algebraic. So if I take, for instance, for example, especially over an imperfect field, the additive group, and I take the dual of that turns out to be a formal group. Okay, the completion at 0. It's a formal group, so it's not a group scheme anymore. It's a direct limit of finite things. So that's why I need this big bag to contain all these things. All right. Okay, perfect. Okay, so well, as I mentioned before, an arbitrary group, algebraic group, is not an abelian variety. It's an extension of an abelian variety by a linear group. So I can express any commutative algebraic group in that way. If K is perfect, if K is perfect, then this guy, actually, this is the so-called Chevalier or Barsotti-Chevalier decomposition, and I can choose this L smooth. So no nilpotency here when K is perfect, but when K is imperfect, there are examples of groups, even smooth groups over an imperfect field where this decomposition does not exist because this guy is not smooth anymore, non-smooth in general. So it can contain nilpotency, so that complicates things. Okay, anyways, so what do I want to do? I want to define the dual. I know what the dual of this is, and I know what the dual of this is, the Cartier dual. So let me try to do this in a very naive way, okay? So I'm just gonna take the dual of this guy, this sequence. So that means I'm going to apply this functor. Oh, sorry, I'm not working on a relative case. I'm on over fields only. Okay, so I apply this functor. Okay, and of course, this functor has a higher derived functor of the extensions, etc. So if I apply that, then with the hope of seeing what the dual has to be, okay, if I do that in a naive way, so what do I end up with? Let me see. I get something that doesn't look very promising. the dual of G, whatever that is. Actually, I should write it. Oh, yeah, this is the dual in this sense. Okay, no problem. So I have the dual of L, and then here I get an ugly thing, apparently ugly, an extension sheaf. Here in this category, a pain to write. Okay, and then there's something even uglier here of the similar type, but with the G in here. Okay, and it goes on and on. All right, so you see, it doesn't look like I get something like this, because if I'm going to define the dual, and if that's going to be a group, if the dual were to be a group like this one, I will have to have a similar sequence, extension, but it doesn't work. So then you're stuck in there. Well, I'm stuck, not you. But luckily, no, I see something in there. I see there's something that doesn't look too hopeless. This extension sheaf, this A, you get, I remember this guy is not a sheaf. It's tamer. It's not as wild. This guy is actually representable. It's actually the dual abelian variety. Oh, the dual. Oh, that's what I want, the dual. Okay, so I don't get, it's not too bad. There's hope. LD AT. This is called the Barsotti-Bay formula. Okay. So Barsotti Barsoti's name has appeared twice in this talk already. So the Italians will be happy with me. Okay. So GDL, and there's something else here I don't care about. Okay. So, but I still, it doesn't look like that. But I see. But this map seems to be interesting. Interesting. Okay. So I consider that map. This is a connection map, connecting map in this extension things. Okay, doesn't matter, the technicalities don't matter really. So I consider this one, and what do I do with this one? Okay, well, but I can attach to that. Let's see, I wanna maintain some type of order, some sort of order in here, not to mess things up. Okay, so it's a morphism. Now, if I start with this morphism, I can consider its mapping cone. So this is a construction, a typical construction in homological algebra, okay? The mapping cone, so it's just a complex, which consists of this map. Again, this is just a map here, view as a complex, and this guy is it sits in degree -1, degree 0. So it's a two-term complex. So this cone construction is kind of it encodes information about the kernel and the co-kernel of this map. Okay, so that's good. So what is that good for? Okay, and this is in the category of bounded complexes with the members. I mean, the objects are sheaves. Okay, complexes, bounded complexes. Okay, so perfect. And but if I apply some generalization of this functor for complexes, I apply the dual to this. So I take the dual of this complex using a generalization of that concept, of that duality. If I do that, then I'm happy because I eventually get this sequence back. Okay, so I'm going to define the dual of my group G, but it won't be a commutative algebraic group anymore. It will be a complex. This guy. Okay, just this guy. So that's going to be my dual. So I have to, as I said at the beginning, the category of sheaves, this category here is really my temporary universe because it's too small. So I need to consider the bigger category of complexes of sheaves. And so this big ball gets bigger, so I don't want to write on my wall. Okay, so I won't make a picture of that. Okay, anyways, so that's okay, excellent. So I have you, this is the one motive. This is the one motive dual to G. So I have to have a new object, a one motive. Okay, and so in general, so I can generalize this because this was just for a G. Now, an algebraic group. So I have now increased my category. So now a question is, what if I take the dual of this, I get G back, of course. But then what's the general definition of a one motive? What would a one motive be in general? Okay. And so I answer my own question here. So the category of K1 motives is, so here I'm going to define the category of one motives. As in every talk, I have to lie a little bit because of time constraints. In fact, the definition of one motive is more complicated because this is just the complex associated to one motive. So it has to be more, some technicalities that I have to skip. Okay. So, but before you send me any mail complaining about definition, I want to say that I'm not telling the whole story. Okay. So, what is this M? Complexes. Okay. And these will be, the objects here will be of this form. Okay, so this is a commutative algebraic group. This is a linear group, and this is the dual. And how do I get that back? Well, that will be, let's see, if I set G equals the dual abelian variety, which is an algebraic group, okay. And if I take K equals 0 here, that's why I called it K, because it's not the same as L. If I take K equals 0 here, then I get this G viewed, my original group viewed as a one motive. And therefore, if I define the dual of this guy, how do I define it in general? It's going to be this guy. So, and so when K, in this example, when K is 0, so that I get G, this dual gives me exactly this. Okay? So that's the definition of a one motive. Here's a dual. And I do this in complete absolute generality. I know it's suicidal, you know, it's too difficult, nearly suicidal. Okay, it's a pain because this guy L may be non-smooth. Okay, and so my one motives, the ones the category I'm attempting to construct, may contain infinitesimal parts. You know, here nilpotency here, so it's more general than anything that has come on before. Of course, I may fail at getting results as strong as the ones that are known in the specific cases that I'm going to talk about now. But you know, I have no choice because I need to find the dual of any group for the applications that I have in mind that have to do with the Lichtenbund duality, which is a very important subject that I hope to have time to talk about in the last 5 minutes. Okay, so examples. So let me tell you a little bit about history. A little bit about history. Not too much, a little bit, just a little bit. So examples. 1 or A. If G is a semi-abelian variety. So I'm not talking now about a general commutative algebraic group, just semi-abelian. What does that mean? It's an extension of an abelian variety by a torus. Okay. In this case, this object KD is a lattice. Okay. Free Galois module. Okay, because it's going to be the dual of another torus, not this guy. That's why I called it K. Okay, so in this case, this motive here that I'm defining, when K is a lattice, so K is a torus, these are well known. And when G is in a semi-abelian variety, these were introduced by Deligne in 1974. Okay, so these are the one motives that Grothendieck was familiar with, because Grothendieck was retiring or you know, moving away from math at about that time, or even before then. Well, what Grothendieck is important, of course, we know that Grothendieck is, you know, very important. In his opinion is that he thought that it was impossible to define one motive over an imperfect field, for reasons that are explained in a letter to Illuzy in 1975, maybe, or 73. I don't recall exact date. But anyways, Grothendieck did not know generalizations of this idea, because later in 1996, 1996, Lamont, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Lamont defined a generalization, okay? Extended the category of the lean one motives, and the condition here is that the K bar point here is torsion free. But here we can have additive components. So it doesn't have to be a lattice anymore. So it is a true generalization. And I think he worked on only in characteristic 0. So this guy is torsion free. And here, the important condition is the characteristic of K is 0. So good enough for number fields, okay? But not for function fields, which is my area of interest at this time. And these two definitions were generalized by a young man. Seems to have retired from math. Unfortunately, maybe he's happy doing other things. And his name is Russell, Henrik Russell. So Henrik, I think his name is with an I, not a Y. Hope I'm getting it right. Henrik Russell. And so he was a student of Vivek and Inol. Yes, I think so. So Henrik Russell generalized this notion and defined, but only when K is perfect, so that the Chevalier decomposition is available. Your L is smooth. You don't have to worry about infinitesimal stuff. You don't have to worry about these pesky infinitesimals popping up everywhere. All right. Okay, so K is perfect and G smooth. Okay, G smooth and connected. And then this M, which is the same definition, there's nothing new here. This is a Russell one motive. And this was done in 2013. Okay, a few years ago. So what I'm trying to do is generalize the category of Russell one motives in using exactly the same definition. The problem is that I don't have a Chevalier decomposition anymore. And so I have some technical problems as usual. Why am I doing this? Not because I'm a masochist, it's because I'm interested in this problem. Problem that motivated, no pun intended, the construction of M1. Which is underway, may fail. I don't know, you never know. It's like the lottery. So here, and so what is this? What are the points here? I mean, what is the field that plays a role? I'm going to talk about local field. So have a K0 that either QP or FP or power series. Okay, and K is a finite extension. So this is the local field. It can be either a p-adic, a finite extension of the p-adic of QP, or it can be a local function field. Okay. So and there, if X is proper or projective, if you like to simplify, if X is proper and geometrically integral, so it's reduced over the algebraic closure and it's irreducible also. So it's a variety, what is usually called a variety, but a proper variety. Proper geometrical integral, and what and the object I care about, at least at this stage in my research, is this group, the Brauer group of X, proper geometrical integral. Okay, but possibly singular. Okay, I'm not assuming smoothness. Notice. So I want to study this group when X is non-smooth. That's what I'm doing or trying to do. Okay, it's not easy, but it's very, very interesting. This dichotomy in mathematics, you get very interesting stuff that it's also very difficult. So you can't run away from it because it attracts you. It's so interesting. The technicalities are painful, but the problem is so passionately interesting that you go ahead anyway, even if you crash and burn. Okay. So, anyways, so sorry about my enthusiasm. Okay, so and And so this is my Broward group that I want to study when the variety is the proper variety is possibly singular, and there is a connection. There's a way to study this algebraic group. Sorry, this is called the algebraic Broward group. So there's a way to study this Broward group. This is separable closure. Okay, so these are the classes that die in the separable closure. So it's algebraic. So and so we have a. So this is defined as an H2 in ethyl cohomology. Here I have an H1, and actually there is a big subgrouping here, and this is the Picard scheme, which is a group scheme. This is the commutative group scheme, and I'm going to take the connected component. So I have here a connected commutative algebraic group when if X is smooth and proper, I'm assuming proper. If X is smooth, then this guy is an abelian variety. Okay, this is an abelian variety, and there is a well-known duality theorem. Look, I'm working in local case. There's a local duality theorem. This guy is an abelian variety. There's a well-known, famous Tate local duality theorem. Okay, so no problem. Even I don't have to assume X smooth. Grothendieck showed that with X geometrically normal is enough. Okay, not even smooth, something weaker, but it has to be normal over the algebraic closure. You know, geometrical normal, then you still get an abelian variety, and then you can use Tate duality, which is known, you know, as well as gunpowder, you know, is a classical theorem. Okay, a classical theorem, and but what if you get some more nastier varieties? You know, X not normal or not semi-normal. Semi-normal is a weakening, okay, of normality. So something really singular, something like this. So you have a cuspidal curve. You do the cuspidal curve times P1K. So you get something like this. It has an infinite ridge of infinite length. And then if you're crazy enough, you can try to twist this, you know, and then try to do a self-intersection or infinitely many self-intersections. So this is not going to be, it's not semi-normal. It's crazy, you know. And what about the Broward group of that stuff? And so you do this and try to do this. And when you have singularities, when there are singularities in X, then this is no longer an abelian variety. It's an extension in general. So we get this extension. All right. And so I need to find a duality theorem for these groups when this guy is no longer an abelian variety or linear. It's a mix of both. And that's why I need to study one motives. Generalized one motives, because I want to do this over an imperfect field, the local function field case. So I have to define the generalized one motives and try to come up with a local duality theorems for that, so that I can study this guy via some duality theorem. This was done by Lichtenbaum. This guy. This was done by Lichtenbaum in 1969 for proper smooth curves. Okay, so that was the first step. So he had abelian varieties to contend with. Actually, the Jacobian, because it was just a curve. And then, I'm almost done. And then in the year that's 1969, and then there was a big push in 2004 by Van Hamel. He obtained a duality theorem for this guy. But still proper, smooth, but of dimension not necessarily curved. Okay, so he generalized Lichtenbaum, 2004. And after that, nothing. Okay, so it hasn't been done yet. There's nothing, no advance, no progress on this problem when you drop the smoothness. And so that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm struggling with all this stuff. and maybe something modest will come out. But you know, somebody else can pick it up and say, hey, this can be improved upon. And that's how math evolves, you know. It's a collaboration effort. Okay, we all pitch in, you know. And I'm gonna maybe how do you Americans say, kickstart it. Okay, just a little bit, something maybe not very spectacular, but someone else can look at it and say, oh, well, there's another idea here. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Sorry if it was too fast, but I don't want to, you know, go beyond my time. It's not good to go beyond your time. Okay, the time allowed. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your wonderful talk.
Okay.
Are there are there any questions?
Oh, questions.
Or preguntas?
Yes, questions are right. Preguntas or questions. Yes. Yeah, the question can be in Spanish. I can translate it or try to. Okay, I hope I didn't raise your blood pressure. Okay, I hope.
I have a little question just out of curiosity. So it seems to be really useful here to impose the smoothness condition, because then when you have the peak zero, you get an abelian variety, right?
Right.
Okay, fine. But you may think also about these semi-abelian varieties that somehow fit in the picture that you had before, right? You build them using some torus and some.
Yes, I mean,
right. If you have mild singularities, you may get here some semi-abelian varieties. To what extent that's useful to get started? Because I see here that when you look at the Brouwer group of X, well, according to what you say here, the progress that you're looking for is only being made in the smooth case.
Right. Yes, I understand. I understand. I mean, look. As I said, you don't have to assume smoothness only with geometric normality. You still get that this is an abelian variety. This was, you know, discovered by Grothendieck many years ago. If X is not necessarily smooth, but geometrically normal, so you still get an abelian variety. You can go further than that without going through the pain of developing the theory that I'm attempting to develop, because if X is geometrically semi-normal, which is a weakening of that condition, then this guy is no longer an abelian variety, but it's a semi-abelian.
All right. Okay. Good. So, okay.
All right. Good. And I do have a duality theorem, a local duality theorem when this guy is a semi-abelian variety. This is thanks to work.
But is that a characterization? I'm not familiar with semi-normality. So is that a characterization somehow, or you may
going the other way? I don't know. I think if it's geometrically semi-normal, then it's this guy is semi-abelian. But I doubt that you can go the other way.
So you can somehow can you prove this when can you develop the theory you want to develop when X is whatever condition is necessary for the peak zero to be semi-abelian?
I could try to do that, but you know, it's not very interesting.
Who knows? Because you see that you went from smooth to geometrically normal, but still using abelian varieties. Right. So maybe
I can go further than that. I can get semi-abelian, and there is already a theorem.
Right, but what I'm asking is that to what extent semi-abelian is to what extent semi-normal is the end of the story if your tools are semi-abelian varieties?
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I really don't know about that, because if it's geometrical semi-normal, then it's a semi-abelian variety. Right. But look, but if it's semi-normal only, and the field is imperfect, then geometric semi-normality and semi-normality are not equivalent when the field is imperfect. So if you weaken this condition, then you're not going to get a semi-abelian variety anymore, because you have to, in order to get semi-abelian variety, you have to extend the base field via a purely inseparable extension. So if you go above purely inseparable, you get this. But if you want to come back, then you start getting vague restriction of semi-abelian varieties. And when this extension is purely inseparable, this is no longer a semi-abelian variety, and you get the full, nearly the full complexity of unipotent groups over fields of imperfect fields. So there's a whole undiscovered country in here, because there's the vague restriction of abelian varieties was considered by Renault many years ago, and those are extensions of abelian varieties. Those are extensions of unipotent groups by abelian varieties. The unipotent groups can be K-wound. I mean, not split, not copies of the additive group. It's much more complicated. So, and if you get semi-abelian, even worse, because you're going to get a torus in here, and you're going to get the vague restriction of a torus, and that has a torus in the kernel. Okay, so if you get something like this, and then you get a unipotent group, which is tough to study because you're over an imperfect field, and this guy is non-split. So it can be very complicated. It can be a form of the additive group. It can be the additive group over the top, but not below. So it's huge. It's a huge subject, huge. Really.
And one more little question. So I'm just curious if you can somehow trick this problem a little bit. Maybe this is trivial, but for instance, what if X is defined over a perfect field of positive characteristic, but then you base change to an imperfect field? To what extent the base change process is still something you can control?
I cannot control. I don't think anything.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Think
So if I'm understanding correctly, even if your X is defined, say, over a finite field, but then you go to a function field, and then things get a little bit more complicated. Okay.
You're completely crazy. Okay.
Okay. I see.
Because you can have a group, a unipotent group, and then there are examples when you go up over a purely inseparable, and this guy is the tamest possible thing. It's an additive group, one-dimensional, but this guy is one-dimensional, but it's a form of this guy, and this guy, it's huge also. I mean, there are many, these are called one-dimensional K1 groups, and you could write a 50-page chapter on those. This is only.
No, I can't.
Well, someone can. Me neither. But if you take something like a vector group, higher dimension, then things get really wild, because this is d-dimensional. They're hypersurface models for this one in positive characteristics. But there's all sorts of crazy counter examples. If you imagine a theorem about algebraic groups, you might find most counter examples here already. So it behaves wildly, but it's also a passionately interesting subject. And Conrad and Gabler and Prasad have written a whole book about these. Well, not the commutative stuff, but non-commutative groups, linear groups, and over imperfect fields. And I'm sorry I didn't have the time to mention the wonderful work of Rosengarten. Some of these ideas are born out of, they were motivated by comments by Rosengarten, who was a student of Conrad. And Rosengarten wrote a wonderful thesis. And because he did that, I can do something. I can read his thesis and move, push it a little forward. And that's what I'm doing. So his thesis is fresh, 2018. The latest version came out on January 6th this year. So he's fixing the stuff. He's moving the goalposts forward to prevent me from progressing. I hope not. Anyways, but his thesis is wonderful. He's a brilliant young man, and I'm using some of his ideas to get ahead. And so it's great. So many thanks to him for his ideas, and also to Van Hamel, who unfortunately is passed away now. Van Hamel did wonderful stuff and has been cited once. It's a shocking oversight. The stuff that he wrote is very important, but no one has cited it. No one has done anything about it. So Van Hamel left many ideas, and they are sitting there. And waiting for someone. Maybe I will try to get somewhere with Hamill's ideas about the Brown-Marino structure over over imperfect fields, function fields, global function fields, and all that stuff. I have, I think I have like 20 years of work ahead of me. Anyway, I hope I'll still be alive. Many thanks. Any more questions?
Further questions? If not, let's thank Christian again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And subscribe to my channel. Yeah, I'm gonna charge for it. Okay, I'm gonna turn the recording off now. Okay, nice. Thanks for your patience. Everything wonderful. Okay.